You gave your daughter $10,000 to help with her house deposit. Generous, loving, completely reasonable. And then 3 months later, Centrelink sent you a letter that changed your pension payment. Same bank account, same house, same you, but a different fortnightly amount. And no one warned you this could happen. If that scenario makes your stomach drop a little, good. Not because I want you to panic, but because awareness is exactly what protects you here. By the end of this video, you will know precisely what triggers that letter, how to calculate what it could cost you, and what to do before you transfer a single dollar. So stick with me, because this one is genuinely worth your time. I'm Paul, and I've spent a lot of time sitting with the rules around the age pension, so you don't have to wade through the fine print yourself. Think of me as that friend who actually enjoys reading the Centrelink guidelines, so you can get on with enjoying your retirement. Today, we're unpacking one of the most misunderstood traps in the whole pension system. Gifting money to your kids. It's not illegal. It's not even unusual. But the way Centrelink treats it will absolutely surprise most people, and that surprise can cost real money every fortnight. Here's the core issue. Most Australians assume that giving money to family is a private matter. You earned it. It's yours. You choose what to do with it. And look, that instinct is right in almost every other part of life, but the age pension doesn't work like most other things. Centrelink assesses your eligibility and payment rate based on your assets and your income. The moment you hand money to your kids, grandkids, or anyone else, Centrelink doesn't simply forget it existed. In fact, depending on how much you gave and when, that money can still be counted as yours for pension assessment purposes, even though you no longer have it. That is the trap, and it catches people who are doing something genuinely kind. Now let's deal with the myth head on, because this is the number one misunderstanding I hear. People believe there is a magic $10,000 limit. Give under that, and Centrelink waves you through. Give over that, and the alarm bells ring. It sounds tidy, doesn't it? And like most things that sound tidy, it is not quite right. The actual rule is this. Centrelink allows you to gift up to $10,000 per financial year, and no more than $30,000 across any rolling 5-year period, without it affecting your pension. That is what is called the gifting-free area. Stay within those limits, and Centrelink treats the gift as gone. It leaves your assets, no further questions asked. But here is where people go wrong. They hear $10,000, and they think it is a simple line in the sand. What they miss is the rolling 5-year rule sitting right next to it. Gift $10,000 this year, and another $10,000 next year, and you have already hit your $30,000 limit 2 years in. From that point forward, anything extra does not just disappear from your balance sheet. Centrelink keeps counting it. That is where deprived assets come in. It is a term that sounds harsh, but the idea is actually straightforward. If you give away money above the gifting-free area, Centrelink treats the excess as a deprived asset. In plain English, that means they act as though you still own it, even though you have already handed it to your son or daughter. They count it under the assets test, and they deem an income from it under the income test for 5 years from the date of the gift. You gave the money away. Centrelink did not. Let me show you what that looks like in dollars. Take Margaret, a single-age pensioner in regional Victoria. Margaret has worked hard her whole life. She is careful with money, and she wants to help her son buy his first home. She transfers $20,000 to him in August. She knows about the $10,000 gifting rule, but she figures she is close enough, and her son really needs the help. What she does not realise is that $10,000 of that gift sits inside the free area, and $10,000 sits outside it. That $10,000 excess is now a deprived asset. Under the assets test, it gets added back to her assessable assets. Under the income test, Centrelink deems it to be earning income at the applicable deeming rate. For a single pensioner, that deemed income stacks on top of whatever else is already being assessed. The fortnightly pension reduction in Margaret's case could be anywhere from around $30 to $60 per fortnight, depending on where she sits in her payment calculation. That is between $780 and $1,560 a year coming out of her pension for money she no longer has, and it stays that way for 5 years. Now, I want to be very clear about something. This video is general information, not personal financial advice. Margaret's situation is a worked example to show you how the mechanism operates. Your numbers will depend on your specific assets, income and pension rate. Before you make any decision about gifting, please speak with Centrelink directly or sit down with a licensed financial advisor who knows the pension rules inside out. The goal here is not to scare you off helping your family. Helping your kids is one of the great joys of having something to give. The goal is to make sure you do it with both eyes open, so the generosity you planned does not quietly shrink your pension without you even knowing why. Understanding the rules is not a barrier to giving. It is what makes giving sustainable. So let's talk about exactly what to do before any money moves. So here it is, the framework, 3 numbers, 3 checks, and a process that takes maybe an afternoon but protects your pension for years. Let's go through them one at a time. Number 1 is your gifting free area balance. Before any money moves, you need to know exactly how much you have gifted in the current financial year and across the past 5 years. Not roughly. Exactly. Because Centrelink keeps a running total and the rolling 5-year rule does not reset the way people assume it does. Pull out your bank statements, go back 5 years if you need to, and add up every gift you have made to family members. Cash transfers, paying off someone's debt, covering a bill that was not yours to cover. All of it counts. Once you have that total, you know exactly how much room you have left before the deprived assets clock starts ticking. If you have not gifted anything in 5 years, you have the full $10,000 available right now. If you gifted $15,000 3 years ago, your remaining room is much smaller than you might think. Get the number first. Everything else follows from it. Number 2 is your current assets test position. The reason this matters is that a deprived asset does not just disappear into a bureaucratic drawer. It gets added back to your assessable assets, which moves you along the assets test scale and potentially reduces your fortnightly payment. So before you gift anything, you need to know where you currently sit relative to the thresholds. Are you well inside the full pension zone, or are you closer to the edge than you realise? If you are already near the taper zone, even a modest reduction from a deprived asset finding could tip you into a lower payment rate faster than you would expect. Your Centrelink online account through MyGov will show you your current assets assessment. Spend 10 minutes there before you do anything else. Number 3 is the deeming calculation on the excess. This one is the quiet cost that most people never see coming. If you give more than the free area allows, Centrelink does not just count the excess as an asset. It also deems that money to be earning income at the current deeming rates, and that deemed income sits on top of your income test assessment for 5 full years. The deeming rates are published on the Centrelink website, and they change periodically, so check the current rate at the time you are reading this. Multiply your excess gift by that rate, and you have a rough sense of the annual deemed income being added to your assessment. It is not a huge number in isolation, but stacked on top of everything else being assessed, it adds up over 5 years. Run that calculation before the money leaves your account, not after. Now, when do you actually tell Centrelink? The answer is straightforward. You report a gift within 14 days of making it. That is the rule, and it applies regardless of whether the gift is inside or outside the free area. Even if your gift is completely within the $10,000 limit and will not affect your pension at all, you still report it. This is the part people skip, assuming that if it does not affect their payment, there is nothing to declare. That assumption can create problems later if Centrelink reviews your record and finds a transaction that was never reported. Reporting a gift that sits inside the free area takes about 5 minutes and costs you nothing. Not reporting it can create a compliance headache that takes considerably longer to sort out. Now let me bring back Margaret, because her situation has a better ending than the one I left you with. Suppose Margaret had run through these 3 checks before she transferred the $20,000. She would have seen that $10,000 of that gift would land outside the free area and be treated as a deprived asset for 5 years. So instead of sending $20,000 in one transfer in August, Margaret sends $10,000 now, within the current financial year's free area, and she holds the second $10,000 until July, the start of the next financial year, when her annual allowance resets. Same total amount of help to her son, same generosity, 0 deprived asset finding, 0 pension reduction. The outcome is completely different because the timing was different. That is not a loophole. That is just understanding how the system works before you act inside it. And look, I want to say something plainly here because it matters. Helping your kids is one of the best things about having something to give. I am not here to talk you out of it. Generosity is not the problem. The problem is generosity without information, because that is how a kind act quietly costs you $700 to $1,500 a year in pension income you did not know you were losing. Your retirement income is not a sacrifice you should have to make to help your family. With the right timing and the right reporting, you usually do not have to. Just remember, everything I have shared today is general information. It is a framework to help you ask better questions, not a substitute for advice specific to your situation. Please check with Centrelink directly or sit down with a licensed financial advisor before any money moves. Your circumstances are your own, and the numbers I have used are illustrative, not a prediction of what will happen in your case. The biggest takeaway from this whole video: helping your kids is fine. Completely fine. Just do the 3 checks first, report it properly, and you protect both your generosity and your pension at the same time. If this has been useful to you, do one thing right now. Hit subscribe. I put a new video out every week for Australians in or approaching retirement, cutting through the Centrelink rules so you know exactly where you stand. And if you have got a question about gifting or a situation you are trying to work through, drop it in the comments below. I read them all, and your question might just become the next video. I will see you next week.